Hello everyone. So it's story time again. I have a little bit of a funny story, or multiple funny stories to tell you. So I'm out here today in Wenatchee, Washington, and I'm on the street begging, right? And it's cold today. You can't even really see. Here, let me see. Let me try to open my window here. But it's raining / snowing here, and Wenatchee. I'm actually in front of Winco. This is Winco Foods in Wenatchee, Washington. Anyhow, so it's pretty cold today, or very cold. It's like, I don't know, 35 degrees Fahrenheit or something right now. And so I'm standing on the corner, with my sign, just hoping someone gives me some money. You can even see my nose is kind of red because it's so cold. Anyhow, so I'm standing there on the corner, and cars passing by me, and a car pulls up next to me, and there's a dog in front, and the dog is sitting on the seat, kind of like a human, just sitting normal, facing forward, right? Windows are rolled up, and I get different reactions from dogs when they see me standing there on the corner. The most obvious is just barking at me, regardless if the window on their car is up or down. Some dogs just bark at me, right? If their window is down, sometimes they'll do the whole, put their nose up in the air to smell me type of thing, right? Other times they'll just completely ignore me. They're just looking around and whatever else, right? And this dog, though, yeah, he's sitting there on the seat, just kind of looking straight, and then he starts to side-eye me. So he's sitting there straight, kind of like this, and then he turns his head over, and he looks at me standing there, and then he kind of turns his head back, and then his eyes kind of veer over, and and so I notice, and so then I look at him, and it kind of makes me smile, because I'm noticing what he's doing, and he just continues to do it. He's just like looking at me like, what the heck are you doing out there, And he's like, man, it sure looks like it's cold out there, because he's obviously in the car, and his owner has the heater on or whatever. The windows are rolled up, so he's in there warm. He's just like looking at me, just side-eyeing me like, what are you doing standing out there? Not barking, not, some dogs, like, literally they get all excited. They jump up and down and, barking at the window or through the window or whatever. And no, not him. He's just sitting there really calm, really, good boy, as you would say. And just give me the weird side eye, like literally like that, like, what are you doing out there, So yeah, so when you're on the when you're on the street, so when you're driving, you miss a lot. You miss a lot when you're driving, because you're focused on driving. You're going fast and you're passing by things, right? But even when you're like walking or riding a bike, and still, I'm assuming you notice more, or you do notice more, right? But you're focused on your destination. You're walking or you're riding your bike, and so you're still gonna miss some things or whatever. But when you're standing there, especially on a street corner, a busy street corner, and a lot of people coming by, I tell you what, man, you see a lot of weird things, funny things, interesting things. Like I said, with the dog side-eyeing me, or like I said, some dogs freaking out. Some dogs, really freak out. They're just so mad. Like, how dare you just stand there and do nothing? They're so mad, right? And then yesterday, I saw a guy riding his bike backwards. So the bike was going forward, but he was turned backwards on the bike. I don't know how he was doing it. I don't understand. He was somehow turning the pedals, but from turned, his body was literally turned facing the opposite direction of where the bike was going, right? And then even with that, so he was doing that, and as he passed by me, I kind of I smiled at him, and because it's interesting. It's it's something you don't see every day, and so I kind of smiled and not laughed, but just a grin, right? And then he looks at me like, as he's riding backwards on the bike, he looks at me weird, like, how dare you, right? And I'm thinking in my head, I'm just like, hey, buddy, I'm not the weird one riding his bike backwards, it's something you don't see every day, so that's why I'm looking at you. The guy's looking at me like, oh, how dare you stare at me riding my bike backwards, So you see, I'm telling you, yeah, really, when you're standing there, you especially for hours, you see a lot of weird stuff. Another one that I noticed, more common than I would think. Sometimes people just randomly start, like they'll have like a cloth, I guess, in their car, and they'll just start randomly wiping the dashboard and stuff. I don't know if they're just nervous because I'm, standing there and they're just trying to, do something. But I've noticed more than one person does that. That they have like a white rag, and they're just sitting there at the stoplight, and then they'll just all of a sudden kind of just start like, dusting their car, cleaning their car, like, where the radio is at and stuff, just kind of just wiping it off. I've noticed that, more than I would expect, amount of people doing that. I'm like, oh, okay, people just randomly, while they're driving or waiting at the light, they just randomly start cleaning their car, So you see that, and then children, okay. Children is a different thing too. So, okay, so with adults, again, people pull up, at a stoplight next to me. They see me begging there. And with adults, they'll generally, try to avoid eye contact, or try to not stare at me or whatever, right? To not be rude or whatever. And or plus they probably don't want to look over at me, and they were like, oh no, he's gonna think I'm gonna give him some money. So yeah, adults will generally just kind of just maintain their focus, start cleaning the car or whatever, right? But children have no qualms. They'll be sitting in the back seat and they'll stare at you, just unbroken gaze, just absolutely, worse than a dog. At least a dog was side-eyeing me. Kids, they'll just sit in the back seat. You can see them, because kids are small. They're sitting there just, barely taking up space in the back seat because they're so small with the little seatbelt on. And they'll just sit there and they'll just stare straight at you, So, yeah, so you see that a lot too. Kids have no qualms with just staring at you, just judging you with their eyes, or I don't know if they're curious or wondering what you're doing, or I see some parents, because kids will do that, and then some parents will kind of like, hey, don't do that, don't stare, and so it'll break the kids' gaze. So just random things, all kinds of variety of cars that will pass by. Sometimes people have their cars souped up, and sometimes sometimes the cars are loud, or people are just like really partying in their car, like it's a group of friends, and they're, I don't know, laughing, giggling, and I don't know. You just see. I'm just telling you, when you're standing there on the street, you see a lot of stuff. You see a lot of. You don't realize how many emergency vehicles go by until you're standing there on the street. It's almost to the point where I'm like, oh, okay, so it's about this many per day, where you'll hear like a fire engine, or a police car, or an ambulance. It's more frequent than you would think. I mean, it's obvious. You're in a city with thousands of people. There's going to be emergencies, but so yeah, you stand there for long enough, and you'll see several of those pass by. I don't know, just all kinds of just random things. Not to mention on top of all the weird things you see, and then the weird things that people donate to you. Like I was kind of talking to you about you guys yesterday. A couple guys, they gave me some food. They gave me 2 ramens and a bunch of candy canes, as I was talking about yesterday. And then today, some older lady, she handed me a handful of M&Ms. Not a package or nothing like that. She just pulls up and she rolls down her window, and I kind of knew right away she was going to offer me something, because it's really cold right now, so people don't have their windows down. She had her window like almost all the way down, and so I looked in the car, and she was like, oh, hey, you like M&Ms? I was like, yeah, sure. And I thought she was going to give me a pack. And she just had a handful of, like, I don't know, 6 or whatever, and they looked like Valentine's. They were like Valentine's color M&Ms. And so she just hands them to me, and I just eat them. Well, whatever, I kind of have I kind of have rules, personal rules on what I eat from the individuals give me, because you gotta understand, especially, this is important to know. If you've never been homeless before, if you ever happen to be homeless, you're on the street begging or whatever, it's important, very important to know that some people are nefarious, criminal. People will maybe potentially try to harm you, right? And so you really got to be careful what you consume with what people give you, And so, for example, I'll rarely, actually not really, as my rule is, if someone gives me, like, say, a bottle of water or whatever, if it's not sealed, I won't drink it. If it's not a seal, because because people give you, like I said, all kinds of stuff, right? Like I said, candy canes, ramen. I mean, people give you soda, chips, all kinds of stuff, right? And as a general rule, if it's not a sealed product, I won't eat it. That's not to say that I don't accept it. Anything someone gives me, I pretty much just grab in my hand and I say thank you, and they go on their way and I go on my way. I never refuse anything. I never say no thank you. I never say no. I always, again, when they handed the candy canes, I don't look at them weird. I don't, I appreciate whatever the person has given me, and I put it in my pocket, or if I have a bag, I put it in my bag. I don't question it at that moment. But I'm saying, say when I'm assessing my haul at the end of the day of what people give me, I'm like, okay, people gave me candy canes or ramen, or sometimes people give you a can of soda or this and that, right? Then I'll assess, okay, what am I going to consume or I'm not going to consume, right? And so, as a general rule, I'll usually only eat things that are, packaged or in a can or whatever. So the M&Ms was an exception today. You got to just gauge the person, gauge the situation. It was an older lady, and it was a nice car. It was not, nothing looked suspicious or out of the ordinary. Plus, she had them in her hand. And her hand was, she didn't have a glove on her hand or anything like that. And so, that's one thing that I gauge. I'm like, okay, well, she has them in her hand. If there was anything poisonous or whatever, she wouldn't want it in her hand. Now, if she had on some kind of weird, like a blue glove, like a medical glove, and she was handing me M&Ms, then I'd be kind of like, okay, why does she have to have this weird glove on, hand me, some candy? There's something suspicious. But the fact that she had them in her open hand was like, okay, it's probably safe. If it has some, like I said, if it has some poison in it, she's not gonna just have it in her open hand like that. So yeah, so she just handed it to me, and I just ate them, right? But yeah, as a general rule, because people will give you, I got a sandwich the other day. Someone gave me like a ham, a lettuce, and mayonnaise sandwich or whatever. And so again, I'll gauge. Sometimes I'll eat it. It depends on, if I'm really, really hungry, I'll just take the chance, because, like I said, you have to be careful because there are bad people in the world, right? And, people could potentially give you something to harm you, to make you sick or whatever, right? And even if someone is not intentionally, okay, so another thing, okay, so it's cold right now, right? So for example, right? So say someone gives me, like the guy with the sandwich, okay, I might eat it, it's cold because I know the food's cold, right? But some people, they'll have food in their car, say on a summer day, they'll say the same sandwich, lettuce, ham, mayonnaise, say bread, right? And I don't know how long that sandwich has been sitting in their car. So it's not necessarily that they're up to anything nefarious, but I also think, well, maybe the person just had it sit in their car and it's, all the bacteria is growing on the lettuce and the mayonnaise. And when you're on the street, you can't, in general in life, you obviously don't want to risk getting sick. Look, talk about weird stuff. Look, there's a dog running. I don't know if you guys can see it. Where'd he go? Oh, he's here. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but yeah, the guy's trying to round up his dog. That's what he's doing. Look at. See, I told you. You sit here long enough, and you see random things. I don't know. I don't know if that guy took his dog out to take a leak or whatever, and he took off. It's just a little dog, and he just took off. I'm telling you though, I told you. You sit there long enough. Look, it's been 14 minutes, and we already saw something random, right? So what was I saying about the sandwich? So sometimes you have to gauge, like I said, the whole situation. Whether the food is safe or whatever. I'm gonna tell you something. Like one of the weirdest things I ever got that was dangerous. Right? Someone gave me. This was a long time ago when all of us were begging. When it was me, my girlfriend, my son were begging, and someone handed me not a purse. What is it called? Like a. Looked like a lunch pail, but not a plastic lunch pail. Like, it's one of those soft lunch pails, right? So it has, like a top that you can open, and it has like little pockets on the side and all this kind of stuff, right? And I don't remember if there was anything inside, like food or anything, right? But the weird thing was, on one of the pockets on the side, there was a bunch of tacks, just open tacks. And so I'm glad I noticed. He handed me the bag, and like I said, again, when people go to give me stuff, I normally just grab it, and I go about my way, they go about their way, right? So I grabbed it, he takes off, and then I noticed, like, my hand was really close to where the tacks were. But if I had grabbed the bag wrong, I would have grabbed like a handful of tacks and just poked the shit out of myself. And so I don't know. See, that's one of the things, was like, hey, did he give me that lunch pail trying to be nice, and he forgot that he had tacks in there? Why did he have tacks, open tacks? Like, there was literally, like, I don't know, 50 open tacks in the side of this lunch pail, right? So, he could have been up to something nefarious, trying to get me to, again, to grab it and poke myself and hurt myself. Or it could have just been an honest mistake, and for God knows why he would have a bunch of tacks in his lunch pail thing. Doesn't make any sense, but who knows, right? And so, so you have to be very, very careful. And in that, when you're begging on the street, like I said, people give you all kinds of stuff, right? Not just food, like I told you. People give you religious material. People, you think that if you've never been homeless before, you think that you probably assume in your head that when you're on the street begging, that people are just giving you money, like cash or coins or whatever. No. That's the majority of what people give you, like I said. But people give you random things. People will have given me beer before, alcohol. People have given me cigarettes before. Someone handed me a knife before, and I didn't even know that it was a knife. Again, because somebody will pull up, and then they'll just stretch their hand out, and and I'll put my hand out, and they'll just hand me something, right? And so this was we're in the Tri-Cities in Washington, and so that happened. I was standing at a corner, and some guy pulled up, and he stretched his hand out to give me something. I put my hand out, and he put something in my hand. I think it might have been in a cloth or something like that. So I totally didn't know what it was. It was in something, right? And then he takes off, right? So I didn't know if it was money or change or whatever it was. When I opened it, it was like a pocket knife. And so so people give you random things. People, people offer me drugs before, especially this is in Washington State, so weed is legal in Washington State. And so someone came, this was another thing in Tri-Cities, again, this is another thing that someone handed me wrapped up. It was like a vial, but it had 2 joints in there. And again, I didn't know what it was. The person just handed me, something wrapped in a little cloth, and they take off, right? And then, I'll normally look to see what it is. And it was like a little vial, it was a little vial with a cap on it, and inside there was 2 weed joints in there. So people give you random stuff. You never know. People give you random stuff out of their car. Like I said, from food to drinks. Sometimes, like I said, canned drinks. Sometimes open drink, because sometimes people will go to McDonald's and they'll give you a whole Coca-Cola or something like that. And again, that's where you have to gauge of, well, this is open container, but maybe you saw them just pulling out of McDonald's, and you're like, well, I think it's safe, and I like Coke, so I drink it, right? But so people give you all kinds of stuff. These teenagers, one time, we were in Barstow, California, and I think it was just me baking by myself, and I think I was near a fast food or something. I can't remember where I was at. But anyhow, these teenage girls pulled up, and she was eating fries, and she's like, "Oh, would you like some leftover fries?" She was maybe, I don't know, 15 or something. She was in the passenger seat, and she had like a leftover of, I don't know, medium fries, and she offered me the rest of them. And I said, sure, and I ate them, But again, I assessed the situation. She was eating them. She's a teen girl, and she was eating them. So, I mean, like, again, if it was dangerous, she wouldn't have been eating them herself. She was literally eating a couple, and she's like, oh, there's a homeless person here. And she literally offered me, like, the rest of her fries, like a half of order of medium fries or whatever. And so, people offer you random things. A half a sandwich, random stuff. We've gotten a whole big tub of potato salad before. People will make you, again, homemade food, like soups or random stuff. You get the most. Man, this video has been going on for 19 minutes. I'm gonna cut it off before 20 minutes. But it's crazy to be on the street. It's crazy to be on the street. You see, as you've seen from the dog running around, you see random stuff. I'm gonna end this video. It's gonna go a little over 20 minutes. But yeah, you see the random stuff, you see funny stuff, like the dog. You saw the dog just randomly. Yeah, you see random stuff sometimes. People give you random stuff sometimes. I mean, anyhow, that's the story for today. I'm gonna get going because now this video is over 20 minutes. If anyone would like to donate, I always mention this. If anyone is here after 20 minutes, if anyone would like to donate, as always, there's a PayPal link on my channel page. Everything is very, very much appreciated. Thank you for watching. Thank you for whoever donates. Thank you for being here for 20 minutes, and I'll see you guys next video.